Hello and welcome. You're watching Stadia Rokks. If, like us, you love gaming, but life gets in the way, then Stadia Rokks is for you. Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Sunday morning, normally 10 o'clock. If you're listening to the podcast, this is completely irrelevant. It's now 11 o'clock. We're a little bit later this morning. We need to do some technical stuff. Duncan, good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Good morning again. I am grand. What about you?
I'm grander.
You're grander.
Because I'm older, mate, so I'm allowed to be grander.
Yep. But yeah, it's a nice day out there. So, or over here it is anyway. It's a nice day. Sun's out. Everybody's going to be happy going get a night there.
It's a lovely day, and I need to apologise ahead of time because I think the wife's out with a lawnmower. But if I shut the windows, I'm going to melt. So it is. Just a quick word: if you're new to the show, please drop us a like. It makes a huge, huge difference to whether anyone else finds us, and a subscription will be amazing. As you probably know, if you're a regular watcher, or if you're new to the show, this is a show specifically for you. If you are new to Stadia, if you're a casual gamer, or like us, you've got an incredibly busy lifestyle, and you want to find out a little bit more about how you can jump in, play some games, and jump back out again. So without further ado, Duncan, because ado is not what we want, I'm going to hide that one, and I'm going to pull up our latest news. One day I'll get really good at this.
The latest news from Stadia.
And there we go.
Yes. You bring on your latest news. What have you got for us, my friend?
Okay, the latest news is the Stadia Pro games are now released. They were released on the 1st of July, and they are Crayta, Monster Boy, Steamworld Dig, and West of Loathing. We're going to be touching a bit on Crayta later on the show. Monster Boy is a platform game. Steamworld Dig is also like a platform game. Which we've had all the other games on Pro now, so this is the last one. For some reason, the first one is the last one to go on. Don't ask me why. And then we've also got West of Loathing, which I know you've been enjoying a part of it.
Yeah, I've not played as much as I would have liked, partly because I've been trying to complete Last of Us 2 on PlayStation, and I've been playing on Crayta for a show that we did yesterday with Andy Morphs, which we'll talk more about later. But no, that is the game that I've enjoyed the most. But having said that, Monster Boy is excellent as well. I mean, really good. It's a great platform game, and if that's your thing, this is one of the best, I think, on Stadia right now. Steamworld Dig, I'm not very far into Steamworld Dig 2, and of course that's a progression on Steamworld Dig, so I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to do a lot with Steamworld Dig, but it's lovely to have it in the collection if you haven't played Steamworld Dig 2, and you can start with Steamworld Dig, of course, and take it from there. Just hold 1 second while I remove the noise of the lawnmower from the room, because I'm sure that's distracting for some people.
Yep, and I'll just move on to the next piece of the news. The next news is Just Shapes and Beats has arrived on Stadia, and it's a rhythm platform game or rhythm game, music game, and it's a lot of people seem to be enjoying that, so it might be worth checking out if that is your sort of jam. The next piece of news, which is probably the big news of the week, wireless controller support is on Android. Again, this is just your Stadia controller, but it's the next step and able to play Stadia anywhere without any wires or anything. So basically, you're playing on your mobile phone or even your tablet. You don't no longer need it doesn't need to have a connection into it, a physical connection. It's just all through the Wi-Fi. That's the key point here. You need a Wi-Fi connection for it to work.
But it's amazing in the sense that at least if you've got a Wi-Fi connection, because as we've said before, you can't use Stadia yet on a network. You have to be on Wi-Fi. But it does mean you're divorced from that extra piece of kit, so you can just literally pull your phone out of your pocket. You know, if you're in the bedroom or wherever, pull your phone out, play a bit of gaming, you can still obviously use the controller. I'm talking out my rear here, but the point is that you don't have that cable that you've got to be connected to. So and also you can use the overlay, which I think we talked about before, that Stadia brought out for the phone as well.
Yep, you can. You can use the touch controls as well. The next piece of the news is Stadia player stats. These are a little bit hidden, and they are only available on web at the moment. So basically, what you would do is you would go into your account. Sorry, you go into your Stadia page, click on your friends list, click on yourself, then click on to the
I will show.
Show,
Show and
yeah.
tell. Show and tell time, folks.
Show and tell.
So, yeah. So you click on yourself. So you've gone to the tab with the two little people, in my case, showing me that 13 of my friends are online. Click on myself, then click on achievements, which, as you can see, is just below the settings tab. And then, hey presto, now you get two levels, don't you? So the first level is essentially saying this is how many of the in-game achievements, because most games have these kind of badges, achievements that you unlock, hitting certain targets, for example. But then if you click again or tap again, depending on the device, you'll see now we get this extra layer, which tells us how many hours we've played. And in this case, in the case of Crayta, how many hours have been spent creating versus how many hours have been spent playing, which is quite interesting. And the level that you've reached. Each of the games has a different interpretation of that. So it's going to be down to the developer. PUBG, for example, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, an unbelievable 24 and a half hours played, 33 matches, 0 wins, and 8 kills. Don't look too closely, folks. I'm the first to say I'm absolutely rubbish. And then Loathing, 52 minutes, which is a real shame. But look, I've cuddled 2 cactus. Isn't that lovely? So yeah, each game's going to be different, but I think it's an amazing feature and useful if you're a casual gamer and you just want to kind of see which games it is that you're enjoying the most, or maybe wasting too much time in, for example.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting. You can already see the posts on Reddit. I have spent 200 hours in this game, 200 hours in that game. And it's just like, okay then. But yeah, it's going to, people are going to get into boosting sessions about this. Like how many kills in PUBG Rokk has compared to other people.
Yeah, mostly most people have got a heck of a lot after 20 odd hours. I'm no good at it. I'm the first to admit that.
Yeah, the next piece of the news is we have got 3 games which look like they're coming to Stadia now. The first game is Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition, and that has been listed for Stadia along with Celeste and Hello Neighbor. The Borderlands 2 one is a bit interesting because the Xbox version and the PlayStation 4 version has also been listed as well. Celeste is an interesting one because that is a platforming game which actually needs very precise platforming on it. So them bringing the game to Stadia makes it look like they're happy with the system and how it's going to perform. And Hello Neighbor is another Stadia game, as I call it. It is a co-op game which is going to encourage people to play together. And I think that's a big emphasis of Stadia games.
And that's the one for those that aren't in the podcast, that's the one we've currently got up on the screen, which looks very similar in style to Ember, I have to say.
Yeah, this has been like for a wee while, so it has. So this could potentially have a lot of people having a lot of fun in it. We might see some live streams with people. So it is one to maybe keep an eye on if it comes to Stadia. Again, these games have only been listed for it to come to Stadia. That's just not mean that they are 100% coming, but the chances are that they are coming. And with the Connect coming up in a couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these games, which we're seeing being listed now, are going to be announced at the Connect.
Although there's, and you're right, it's now 13 days to the Connect. And we keep saying this might be announced and this might be announced. And I think historically they're never much longer than about 30 minutes, are they? So I think at some point, maybe next week or the week before, I think this next week will be the last one before. We might want to rationalize what we think we're actually going to hear at the Connect, because if literally everything that everyone says they'd like to hear at the Connect was mentioned at the Connect, we'd probably have a 4-hour-long Connect. So I can't see that happening.
Well, what I can see happening, I have a feeling we're going to get a longer Connect than before. I think touch wood, I think we're going to get at least an hour.
Okay.
I think this is their big showcase one, and one of the wee chats I've been having with people is they have it advertised just a month beforehand, so you don't really do that. So I think this is their big showcase one. So I think we're going to get an hour at least. But
no, it's good. I mean, it would be great. It would be good if we do. And I think, I would also personally like to hear more than just games. I'd like to hear that they are rolling out some new features, maybe updating the UI, that user interface, the way the whole thing works and looks, and also rolling it out to a few more countries as well. I'd like to see those things up at the next Connect, but whether we will or not, we will see. And we don't have to wait too long. 13 days can't be that bad, can it? Right. Thank you very much, Duncan. I think that's it for the news this week, isn't it?
It is. That is for the news this week.
Good. Well, then, what's up?
What's up, Rokk?
You know what? I will edit it one day, that it's not quite as long.
So what's up, Rokk?
Well, I'll tell you what's up. I'll tell you what's up, Duncan. I'll tell you what's up. So basically, I get a lot of people saying, I've got Stadia, and before I got it, I checked my connection, and it said, yeah, you've got 30 megabits or 40 megabits or 15 megabits, and that should be enough to play Stadia. And then I get it home and I connect it up, and it's rubbish. I'm getting lag. It's dropping out. It's telling me I've got a poor connection. What have I done wrong, Duncan?
You've maybe not done anything wrong, so don't be worrying. There is the first thing you should do if you're playing on Stadia is you need to use Ethernet when possible. This is also known as the wired connection, and wired is always better than wireless. So that is the first thing you should actually go and check, is to make sure that you've got it connected into the wired, if that is at all possible, because it will make a significant difference, even though you may not think it just will, especially if you're playing on the Chromecast, because that's going to have a nice high connection. It just eliminates one of the things which could possibly go wrong. The second thing that you maybe should do is check to see what is your Wi-Fi connection. Is it a 2G connection, or is it a 2 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz? Yeah, or 5 gigahertz.
I call it G as well, don't worry.
Yeah. Setting. If your Wi-Fi has a 5G setting, you should be connecting it to the 5G rather than the 2G, because that is a better quality again. So that should increase the ways you can play on Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
On some routers, you can actually put what device is the priority. So that can say, I want my Chromecast Ultra to be the number one. That sucks up all the bandwidth. That's the most important thing. So we want that to be the thing. That's in the settings in your router. Sometimes it's in a wee app, like on the Google Wi-Fi. You can just get an app and you can go into it and go, this is a priority device. So do that. Speaking of the Google ones, if you're using the Google Wi-Fi, you can go in and put Stadia gaming mode on, basically. So that prioritizes everything for Stadia. So everything will go super fast for Stadia if you're using the Wi-Fi over that connection. Another option is maybe just reduce your connection down. You might be streaming in 4K. Just drop it down to the balance mode. There's 3 different modes. There's best quality mode, which if you've got a 4K TV, it will stream it in 4K. You could drop it down to balanced or limited data, and that just reduces the quality, and that could actually increase your overall performance. And the last one you could do is just make sure gaming mode's enabled on your TV. It could be a simple thing as that, where you that could actually make it more lag than actually is there. So basically, you go into your TV controller, go into the options, and one of the options is usually gaming mode. That's on the newer TVs, and that actually reduces that down as well. I'll just go for one final thing. Is you can see if you can upgrade your broadband, and maybe just under what's required, and you could actually look at increasing the actual speed of it.
What would you say was the optimum speed, Duncan, if I was going to upgrade my account?
I would want, for me, I would say about 50 would be the gives you a bit of headroom and allows other people to be going on as well. That's what I think should be the minimum sort of spec on it.
So if I can summarize, try if you can and plug straight your Chromecast straight into a router and not use Wi-Fi if at all possible. If you are using Wi-Fi, you need to check with your router that you've optimized the connection for what you're doing. And one of the things that I've always said is that actually no point optimizing it for gaming, because although logically you're gaming, as far as the router is concerned, you're actually streaming video. So whatever you would do to optimize your router for streaming media, Netflix, YouTube, Amazon, is actually could potentially be better for your experience than if you press the big button that says gaming, optimized for Xbox, optimized for PlayStation, because it works differently. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep, you are. It's on the Google one specifically. There is an optimized for Stadia version of it. So yeah, it's when I was talking about optimization there, it was more you can actually prioritize which device more of that. But yeah, the gaming one would be different because you're sending lots of small ones rather than just sucking it all the time, which you do with Stadia.
Yeah, it is a funny old thing, and I know it's daunting to people when they first get Stadia, and they think, well, hang on, my laptop works absolutely fine. Why should I have to plug it straight in? But it is optimized for that, and as you've rightly said, if you do get problems, then downgrade it from 4K to 1080p. And honestly, I know that a lot of people say if you're sat 8 to 10 feet away from the television, as a lot of people do, and you've got 1080p with 60 frames per second, and you've set your television up for the game mode as opposed to your router, again, more confusion, but that basically means it's not processing the image before it pops it to the screen. It just goes, I'm not touching it. There you go. You can have it as soon as it comes into the television, it's on your screen. So it's just kind of taking any more of that delay out of the whole thing. But 1080p sat back and watching the television with 60 frames per second looks pretty damn good, I have to say. 4K, if you're sat closer to the screen or to a monitor, I think you'll notice a lot. But to be honest, 1080p and 60 frames per second is pretty good. And you're dropping your bandwidth usage significantly by just coming down to the second one. And not all games are 4K. And I think I'm right in saying that Stadia streams at 4K all the time if you choose that option, even if the game is only 1080p. For example, Crayta is only 1080, but if you're set at 4K, you're still getting all that bandwidth coming down. You're just not seeing a difference in the game.
Yeah, and believe it or not, some games are actually played better in the 1080p mode, and the famous example is Borderlands 3, because it's 4K 30 FPS, while in balance mode it's 1080 but 60 FPS, and it feels nearly like a completely different game when you actually drop it down. So some games are actually better played at a lower resolution because you get the increase in FPS. That's frames per second. It just makes it feel a bit more smooth and not as jerky and whatnot. But that is something just to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and I know folks, all the 1080s and the FPSs and the 60s and stuff. If you're new to this, it's very confusing. If you want to, you can get Duncan and I on Twitter. I'm at Stadia Rokks. Duncan is at 1 2 escape, 1 2 escape. If you've got any questions at all, fire them to us on Twitter. I know it's not always easy to get your head around that stuff. And of course, we're later in the show where we have what Ask Duncan. We're always happy to take your particular question and maybe give it a little bit more detail as well. So hopefully that's at least giving you some hope and a few tips to improve your connection.
Yep, hopefully it does. And again, just reach out to any of us here. And if you put questions in the chat, put questions anywhere. This is a safe space. Anybody can ask any questions at all, and we will try and get them answered.
That's right. I know your safe word, so we're all good. Right. Excellent. With no further ado, the next section is going to be our, well, one of my favorites anyway, which is the Rokk review. And today, Duncan, if I can just get rid of how best to set up your Stadia connection, we are reviewing what game?
We are going to review Crayta, and we're going to actually review this together, and we're going to look at it from two different perspectives. Not only our own personal thing, but I'm going to look at it from the perspective if you are using Stadia Basic, as in you're not a pro subscriber. So if you're just on Stadia and you're just buying your games as and when you want to look at them or buy them, that's where I'm looking from. And Rokk is from a pro subscriber perspective as well.
Yeah, and if I can just freeze the screen over there, apologies for that, because one of the things we need to do is just quickly run through. There are 5 aspects to a Rokk review, and just to kind of go over what our approach is that's different to anybody else, is we try and approach each game from the perspective of somebody who is a casual gamer or is really busy in their life. So we're not coming at each game and saying it's an amazing technical feat, or if you spend weeks getting to know it, it's going to be the best game you've ever played. That's not the reviews that we do. Our reviews are, if you've only got 30 minutes in a busy lifetime, in a tight schedule, you want to jump in and play something, is this the game for you? And that's why I think Crayta is actually a fascinating one on that basis. So the 5 things we ask are, how quickly can you get into the game? So if you go to your games library and you press Crayta, and you've just seen how quickly it was for Crayta, because we just launched it. If you're on the podcast, it was fairly quick. The second one is, can you pick up from where you left off? Again, each game will differ. If it's a game that is a live game, like a multiplayer, then obviously you're not going to ever pick up where you left off. But if it's a single player solo campaign, then how close to where you left it will you end up? How easy is it to play? Very important, particularly if you haven't got a huge amount of time and you just don't want to learn masses of keyboard commands or different controller configurations. Is it rewarding? Do you feel at the end of your playing session that, you know what, that rewarded me? I feel like it, I kind of progressed myself or my character. And finally, is it value for money? And it says at £30. We'll come on to that in a second. So let's go back to the top. How quickly can you get into the game from the library? Okay, so as Duncan's just said, what we're going to do from now on is I will take this from the pro subscribers angle, and Duncan will take it from the free basic Stadia account. In this case, they're both the same. And unless you want to go in deeper into the game, Duncan, yeah?
Yeah, I think me and you have got a slightly different score here, but it is relatively quick. You can just jump in and go into it. My only slight minor gripe is when you're actually going into the other games in the game, because as you may not be aware, Crayta is a game where you actually make games, so it's actually 2 parts. But if you're going into another person's game, or you're actually going into the level editor, or where you're actually making your games, for me it's a wee bit on the slow side at times. You're actually waiting for it. For me, I'm giving this a score of 4 out of 5.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't think there's a huge difference here. Getting into Crayta itself is relatively fast, but getting into Crayta and then into playing a game and having a look at what games are featured, deciding whether you want to, if you want to play a different game to last time, and some of the games take a little longer to get into than others. So it's one I'd love to give it 5 for because I think it's a fairly rapid game, but there's some decisions and choices you need to make. So, again, from our perspective, I think that's a 4 as well. Okay, so next on the list, I have to keep flicking out of Crayta. Sorry about this. Can you pick up from where you left off, Duncan?
Yes and no. This is the interesting one with Crayta, is because if you're playing a game, no, you don't pick up where you left off, because these games are like mini games for the majority of them at this moment in time. You can just log into them and you actually join in like a multiplayer lobby. So you don't actually join in from where you left off the last time. However, if you're making a game, you do pick up where you left off. There seems to be lots of saves and that happen all the time, which you don't actually see behind the scenes. So that is being constantly saved. So it's a bit of both in this one. So yeah, with that, I give this a 3 out from 5 because you can and you can't.
Okay, this, by the way, is a game from our good friend, your boy Twiz, which is featured at the moment by Crayta themselves, and that's one of the great things about this title is that there's 2 aspects to it, and I think this has an impact on to be fair, the answers that we present here. The one aspect of Crayta that I'm kind of looking at more from the casual gamer perspective is the fact that you can play games, and you can either play games that developers, the Crayta developers and other developers have created, or you can play games that the community have created for you. So this is a game that a content creator and a couple of guys have put together, and it's been featured as a community game, and there's a lot of work that's gone into it. Now, it happens to be the case that both your boy Twiz and the guys doing it with him are all developers, and they've all got a developer background. And I think that's a key thing because, as we'll see in some of the later stuff, again, whether you're just playing games or whether you're building games has a huge impact on what you get out from this title. And it's a difficult one to review on that basis from from a casual gamer's perspective. So can you pick up from where you left off? No. Not in the sense of if you're playing games, because when you leave a game and go back into a game, it resets. Yes, if you're editing a game, with a few clicks, you can go exactly back to where you left off. So, difficult one again. What was your score based on that one then, Duncan?
It was a 3. It was right in the middle. Yes, because it was a yes and no. It was yes, you can pick up where you left off if you're doing the create mode, but no if you're doing the other games for them at the moment.
And I'm the same. I'm going to give it a 3 as well, I think. So the next third, how easy is it to play? And again, difficult aspect here, because from playing games, which I'll touch on, to building games is a whole world apart. So if you take it from the building games perspective, Duncan.
For me, this is a really difficult one to answer because you've got so many variables for Crayta. In the editor, I'll start with the editor because that's the easier one to actually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually quite difficult to pick up and go. You're going to actually have to do some tutorials and other things like that. You're going to actually watch some YouTube videos to work out what you're actually meant to be doing. There's no clear tutorial in game, which I think it could deal with because like in Dreams, which is a game which is on PlayStation where you can build games, they actually have an actual tutorial in game where you can actually learn how some of the aspects. If you're just jumping straight into the create mode, you may end up getting lost and getting confused because it is a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
For the actual playing games part, that is a toss-up. You could walk into the game and it is going to be straightforward. You know exactly what you're going to do. Other games, it's not as clear. So it's a mixed bag in this one. So, some games you'll go in like that. Your boy Twiz is one there. You just go in. in there and you're just around shooting people. But there's other games where you're not going to be entirely 100% sure what you're actually meant to be doing, because it's down to the community actually making these games. So as more and more games come on, I think the scale will go up as and when created improves and matures. There'll be more and more tutorials, more and more games which will be easier to use. But for me, at this moment in time, I would be giving it a 2 on how easy it is to play.
And that's based purely on the time it takes to learn how to build a game, which, as you rightly said, is not simple. I mean, we're not knocking it for what it is. It's amazing, but if you just want to go in and do some stuff, if you want to build a game, you're going to need to take a heck of a lot of time to get to know the system and watch videos. From purely the ability to go in and play other people's games, which is the feature that I'll talk about, it's very simple to go in and play. I mean, as you saw just now, you go into your library, you choose the games that you want to play or the game that you want to play, and you're in. How easy the actual game is to play will largely depend, again, as you just said, Duncan, on the developer. And it's fair to say that you're going to get a mixed bag. Anybody can create a game and publish it, and they may not think about how easy it was to learn how to play that specific game. Whereas if you play the ones that come out of the box, the ones that have been developed either by Unit 2 themselves, which is the developer behind Crayta, or some third-party developers that have built some games, then they will have tutorials and sort of how-tos and stuff, and they're fairly simple to pick up. And they are, in the main, very straightforward games. There will, I'm undoubtedly sure, be vastly more complex games to come. And I could imagine, for example, one of the things that I'm really keen on doing at some point is emulating the sort of raids that you get in big games like Division 2 and Destiny, where you've got multiple games within a single game by going from room to room, and each one of them having its own mechanics. And I can absolutely see people working on something to that complexity in the not too distant future, but mostly out of the box, very simple to play. So I'm actually going to give it a 3, I think, on how easy it is to play.
Cool. Again, it's as things develop. This game is a completely and utterly fluid game. What we say now could be different in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even months go down the line. This review would be completely and utterly different.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Number 4, is it rewarding?
Yes, it is very rewarding if you're building the games. You are making your own game from scratch, which everybody, if you're a creative person, you're going to absolutely love this. You just sit down and just build and build and build till your heart's content, and then watching people actually play your games or get featured, people are going to absolutely love that. I know, even with our creating thing yesterday with Andy Morphs, I think everybody was enjoying going into everybody's games. Everybody was having a laugh. It was so rewarding. My only thing is, if you're going into other people's games, you could have a lot of misses before you get a hit. So that is my only caveat with that. You could be searching around for a game you want to play, and when you go into it, it's not as good as you thought, or there might not be the population of people actually playing that game to actually get to play it proper. So for me, the rewarding is a 4. It is very rewarding when you're building stuff. There is some bits and bobs. It's a bit hard to work out how things work. There's just so many wee tiny things which just knock it off a point for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there are very few games as rewarding as Crayta if you're building your own games on Stadia. That full stop. If you have the time to invest in this title, to really get under its skin, this could become a career for some people. I mean, it in and of itself could be your full-time occupation within Stadia. But from a casual gamer, from a busy person's perspective, you're not going to have the time to do that. So purely from the rewards of playing other people's games, they're one hits in the main. You know, they're like I liken it to the old games compendium that you pull out at Christmas. You've got a bit of chess, a bit of drafts, Chinese checkers, you know, snakes and ladders and stuff. And it's rewarding in the sense that you have fun at the time, but you're not progressing anywhere. You know, you're putting it away, you're taking it back out again, you're starting from scratch. So difficult one, this, because it's rewarding from what its premise is, which is to build games and, you know, literally developing new skills that you could take out into the real world as a you know, someone that's starting to get their toes wet in game developing and coding. But from just playing the basic games, rewarding, no. I think you, once you've played them a couple of times, you're probably going to move on to the next game that comes out. Right. And
what was your score for that?
well, I can't remember. I do remember. I think it was.
I remember.
Remind me.
You gave it a 5.
A 5. So, you know, kind of in the face of what I just said. But that's because I think from a developer's perspective.
Sorry, you give it a 4 as well. Sorry, I read it wrong. You give it a 4 as well.
Yeah, because I do think if you know, honestly, if you can find the time to invest in this title, you will become addicted to it. It's amazing. Not taking it away at all. I just think from the casual perspective, which is what we approach Rokk reviews with, and this one is been a massive challenge for us from that perspective, because our hearts and our minds are in two different places. I just don't think you're going to get the rewards out of it if you don't have the time to invest. So finally, Duncan, is it good value? Now, I know it says here it's £30. Let's just tell people it's actually free to claim if you're a pro subscriber, which is where I'm coming from. But from your perspective, the base entry level version Crayta is £29.99, isn't it?
It is indeed. The price is £29.99, €35 or $40.
Mm-hmm.
I will qualify this at the beginning and say, if you are a pro subscriber, pick this game up immediately and have fun with it. It is absolutely worth the pro subscription to give it a go to see if you like it. Absolutely no question there. My issue is that to actually buy the game, if this is not going to be a long-term game on Stadia Pro, because as we know, on Stadia Pro, games can come and go as they please, not as they please, as Stadia says. Destiny's are for the foreseeable future, but other games, there is no time limits on them. If this is a Stadia Pro game going from now to forever, absolutely, it is well worth it for your Stadia Pro. If it drops off and you have to pay the £30 for it, in its current state, I don't think I could recommend the £30 to people to actually get it, or the $40. There isn't enough things for it to do unless you're going to just sit and create for the actual games which are there. There's not a game there I would go that's worth entry at this moment. Again, this can change. This game is sort of competing against the Roblox of this world, or even Fortnite when they were doing their wee creative games as well, and they're both free-to-play games, and this has got the £30 barrier to entry if you're just looking at it from a Stadia basic version.
Yeah,
and it would be so hard to recommend this game at that price when you've got.
And am I right in saying, Duncan, that on both because again, I haven't played Minecraft or Roblox, they're sort of different generational thing for me, but am I right in saying that there are free games with both of those platforms to play as well?
Minecraft you have to buy, so but that's on Game Pass, which is another that's another discussion for another day. But Roblox is free, and it's free games to play, and you can buy things in Roblox. That's how they make their money. And in Crayta as well, you can actually buy things as well. So for me, the value for money is really, really what I am having real difficulties in justifying the cost for the £30. As a pro game, absolutely no problem. £30. It's really a tough sell, and for me, for the value for money, it would be a 2 for that because of the £30.
Okay, good. And obviously, from a pro perspective, it's free. I mean, it's incredible value for money, and it is a very, very complex and detailed title. So yeah, I mean, I think you would, you'd be daft not to claim it, if only to play the games and see how they develop with the community building their own stuff. So that's a 5 for me on value, and it's a 2 for you, because at £30, and you're a casual gamer, you're probably not going to get the value out of it. And you could always pop over and install Roblox for free. And although they're different games, you can't collaborate within Roblox. You can collaborate with other people within Crayta, which is one of its unique selling points. And also it has the state share option, which we'll talk again a bit more in a second, but allows you to invite people in and help you to play with it. So it has some unique features that we know Roblox doesn't have. And I know a lot of people say that the actual interface and the graphics that you can create with Crayta are better. But if we're talking purely about value for money, I get where you're coming from. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at our final scores then. Now, from my point of view, representing the pro account people, I think it's a 20 out of 25. So I would give it a 25 if it was easier to build games. I would love to have seen a much simpler version of the editor for people that can kind of to build up and ramp up. But to be fair, I think even if you're pulling in other people's scripts and if you're pulling in packages and assets, if this is a completely new concept to you, it's going to take some time to get your head around it. So for me, 20 out of 25, I think is fair. And your perspective from the basic account holder, the free account holder, is a lower 15 out of 25.
Yeah, and that is basically due to the value for money. If I give it the 5 out of 5, if I was just looking from the pro account, we would have been basically in and around the same there. We had a couple of slight disagreements, but not. I think both of us absolutely see the potential in Crayta going forward. Potentially, this could be a killer game for Stadia going forward. It could become the Roblox for Stadia, the Minecraft for Stadia, their selling point game, which I think that can't be undersold. However, it's just not there yet. With Minecraft and Crayta, or with Minecraft and Roblox, what they have over Crayta, that's what I was trying to say, is they've had years upon years of content being built up over them years. So they've actually got all them games there. So Crayta is at the infant stage with this, and it's just the promise is there, but it's just not fulfilled yet.
Worries. Good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were hearing a woodpecker, that's actually Kelly over at Duncan's end. I stopped my wife mowing the lawn for you, but you know what? He can't. Imagine Duncan telling Kelly to stop hammering. It's not going to happen, is it? Anyway, let's crack on just so you know what that is. So next up, and finally, actually, we don't even have a video yet for your little piece, do we? I was forgetting that. We'll get there, mate. We'll get there. So it's going to be Ask Duncan, and this week, Duncan, I know we had a couple of tweets come in, particularly after last week when we talked, or in the week on Wednesday when we do Stadia Rokks around the clock. And we talked about the difference between what's called state share in Crayta, which we just mentioned, and also where it's implemented in other games like Monster Boy. So the question was, Duncan, I'm confused by state share. It seems to be different in different games. Why?
Yes, I actually got a couple of these tweets during the week, and what has happened here is Crayta has launched this week, and it has got state share in it. And we also discovered during the week that Monster Boy will have state share as well. If you're Monster Boy, if you load up a new game, or if you just load into your games, if you push up or push down, there's an option there for state share. So these are going to be two completely different ways of implementing state share going forward. With Crayta, this is going to be a massive thing for them going forward. You can just give out a link, or it's like 5, 6, 7, or it's about 7 or 8 digit code, and that gets you into Crayta and different things. For Crayta, you can actually go into your go in and help people build games. That's like giving out links that you go off and play that game. Or sorry, come on and help me build this game I want to build, and they can jump in and start editing. And we did that yesterday with Andy. He gave us the code and we started going in to edit that game.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you can actually share your game to people for them to play. So you build this superstar game that you want everybody to see, and they give a link, or you create the link and send it out, and people can do that. Where this differs from Monster Boy is a single player game. So with this implementation, it looks like you'll be able to save your game there and then push that out for people to take over from that point in the game. So it's like two different versions of them. It's the reason why it's different in different games, because developers can actually develop it to actually take advantage of the different features of that game. What you could see in Monster Boy is people create a challenge. They want to get past a place with only like one heart or half a heart. You have to beat this boss with half a heart. Do it, and there's share your state share as a challenge for people in the community to start getting some more community interaction. The developers have all these tools on Stadia to actually show off their games and implement new features and new ways to actually play their games going forward. It's actually up to them.
And that's the thing, isn't it? So what we're saying is that there are these features that Stadia announced last year at the reveal of Stadia, and we covered each of them off, the ones at least that we know about, last Sunday when we on our show. But state share is a little confusing because it turns out that it can be implemented differently depending on the game. So if you say to someone, "Oh, this game's got state share," and they think, "Oh, so what? You mean I can just jump in and play with you?" And yet it could be that actually, no, what this means is that I can give you my save point in the game, and you can take on from that save point and either complete that level for me and then give me your save point back so I can carry on, or you can experience the issue that I've had and try a harder version of that. So you can absolutely see how different developers will implement that differently. But the confusion is that it's still called state share, whatever that implementation is. And therefore you kind of need to go state share and let me qualify that as to what it is within my title.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe get a new name in the future, just to qualify these a bit easier. With state share, could we actually see it in a couple of weeks' time when the Connect happens, that some of these state share and crowd play actually start getting pushed out and we'll get their new names or official names? With Monster Boy, the feature is there. It looks like it's ready to go, and it just needs to be switched on by Google. So I'm semi-expecting that as maybe a Connect announcement that state share is now available on Monster Boy. Come and post your scores or post something to get the people going to start sharing the games about.
Because we also saw it in Wavebreak as well, didn't we?
That was more. I think that was maybe more stream. That was stream share or share stream.
Too many shares.
There's too many shares.
To be fair, I think the point you made is probably correct, Duncan. I don't know that Stadia actually want to call them anything. I think they called them that purely at the developers conference last year, because from a developer's point of view, they needed to explain the toolbox that they're going to give you as a developer. Actually, I don't think they care what it's called by the developer. It's up to the developer to say, look at this cool feature that you can do this with. And the fact that we in the kind of community, in inverted commas, call it state share or crowd share or, plow your share or whatever, is irrelevant as far as Stadia is concerned. And if anything, we're probably confusing matters, and we should just stick to the feature on a game by game basis. I mean, does that make any sense?
Yep, I think you may actually see that because it is a bit confusing. Because I know when people started tweeting me when Crayta was announced as having state share, and their explanation of their implementation of it, everybody was going to me, that's not the way state share was explained to me. State share was explained as in you share your state, and the state is what is happening at that point in that game, not multiplayer links. So that is where people got really confused about this. So the terminology does need to change somewhat, and it may go to a case where it is on a case by case basis, and people can actually call it what they want.
We shall see. It's also interesting. I know. I mean, it's a slight deviation from Stadia, but this week there was a game that's been showed off for most platforms, and we think hopefully one day Stadia. And there's a game called Hyperscore or Hyperscope, and
Hyperscape.
Hyperscape. Thank you.
I called it Hyperscape. I think that sounds better.
Hyperscape, and that uses a not too dissimilar feature, but within Twitch. So I think in cloud gaming in general, we'll start to see these kinds of engaging, integrated features with the community that are watching the game more and more, and we'll kind of start to lose the whole moniker of the thing, and it'll just be what it does.
Yeah, I think it's just as you said with this Hyperscape. I have to make sure I say it right. Hyperscape announcement. Yeah, everything is merging, and it's just everything is just becoming ubiquitous on the platforms. So this is why Stadia needs to start getting these features out, and that's why I'm excited about this Connect, because I think we're going to touch wood, get a lot of
hammer wood. Get hammer out.
Get Kelly to hammer some more wood. Yes, hammer wood. That we're going to get a lot of announcements, which are Stadia platform related, because I think we do need some with the user interface. That's the way you look at the games. It's getting a bit crowded now, and we've seen the hints of streamings coming. We've got the hints of state share. I think we're on the verge of something really touchwood again, hammerwood, exploding with Stadia, where we're going to get a lot of things.
Excellent. Duncan, thank you very much for explaining that. I hope that the original questioner has been satisfied, but I know you lost who it was, so they'll know who they are. Right. So finally, Duncan, where can people find you? Should
they want to? I am found at One to Escape at on Twitter, and I was going to say at gmail.com.
Everywhere, really.
Everywhere, really. And you can also find me on Stadia Source as well.
Brilliant. And of course, I'm Rokk. I'm on this channel all the time, and at Stadia Rokks on Twitter. You can also visit my website. I have a website. It is stadiarokks.uk. Please do. And just finally, as we head off into the sunset, this gorgeous Sunday morning in the UK, can I just also please ask you to visit tiltify.com/@stadiarokks/Rokk. Sorry about the URL. We are raising money for an amazing charity, Click Sargent, which stands for Cancer and Leukemia in Children. I think it says it all. This is the Rokk versus Cancer in Children campaign. I set a fairly, what I thought was a fairly mediocre goal of £1,000, $1,200, which essentially goes towards providing support for families and children for quite some time. We are currently doing an amazing £747 towards that goal, so we're very, very close. I'd like to close that out as soon as we possibly can. So guys, if you've got a spare £5 or a couple of dollars that you could pop in to the charity, it'd be really, really appreciated and get us to that goal. So thank you very much for that. That's all there is for us this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and sorry it was a little bit later than normally and advertised, but normal service will be resumed very shortly. Say goodbye, Duncan.
Goodbye, Duncan.
Take care, guys. Rokk out.